Welcome back, Red Spotters. Another show in the Red Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Alexis J. Soto, joined by Mr. David Francisco, back with another recap of our Loki segment series. Last time we talked about episode 2, Variant, and today we're going to be discussing episode 3, Lamental, whatever planet they're on. What's the damn thing called, David?
Lamented?
Lamentus, that was it. Lamentus.
Yeah, something like that.
Which evidently is the expression a lot of people seem to be having after watching that episode. So that's interesting. So that's our show for today. As how we usually do, we will give off our initial feelings, reactions off of this episode in a non-spoiler fashion. And then once we've had enough, we're going to go ahead and recap and break down the episode as it happened in sequence, led of course by David Francisco. All that here on Red Spotlight number 333. So David, I'm really curious to hear what you think about this episode.
I really enjoyed the episode. I'm glad that we got a different environment in this episode. Like I said last week, I didn't like the gray, I guess brownish tone that we got in this episode, and it just kind of almost took me out of it in some places. But this one though, we got different environments from one scene to the next. I thought it was really cool. All the scenes with Loki and Sylvia. I think it's Sylvie. I don't know. They were pretty cool. I'm kind of glad that they're building up this friendship, I guess, of sorts, which is really interesting.
You know what? You're right, man. I was the one that was wrong. It is Sylvie, not Sylvia.
Oh, okay.
So we're talking about the actress Sophia Di Martino, who last week we encountered, and many people were calling Lady Loki, or even some people were suspecting Enchantress. I don't know. It was a Loki variant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just found out, actually, she, in the comics, she is like a different form, I guess, of Enchantress, or like a different...
Right.
So, that makes sense. The action... I'm kind of glad that we got a bit more action in this episode. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Minor complaint, I wish there was just a bit more magic used in the fight scenes. I'm just hoping they're kind of like building up to it, because budget and shit. Who knows? But other than that, right, we got a bit more information about the time variance. Again, I wish there was a bit more, but other than that, the episode was fine.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the episode. I especially enjoyed the interactions between Hiddleston and DiMartino. I'm not opposed, and I honestly feel most people should not be opposed to episodes that, take some time to not be so plot heavy, and move the story along, quote unquote, but to actually spend some time with the characters, And to me, I had no such issues with pacing. Evidently, the rest of the world did, for one reason or the other. There are various concerns being thrown around out there. Was this the best episode of Loki? It wasn't. Was it bad? No. I thought it was honestly a very solid episode that featured some great performances. And more about what I am currently loving about the show. And also creating some more intrigue as to where this is all going to go, because as we mentioned at the end of last week's episode, we were kind of left in a little bit of a place at like, okay, what happens now? And we got a little taste of it, the beginning of this episode, and now we're at the end. Well, I guess here we are again. What happens next? No, I enjoyed it. Honestly, I think to me, what is really sad about what's coming out of this episode is to see how people are choosing to react to it. And I think, in my view, kind of exposing, I don't know, just a little bit of a flawed mentality. I understand at one point that on one side of it, this is a TV show that is going to have only 6 episodes in this season. So I understand from that perspective why it can be frustrating where an episode comes along like this and it's prioritizing character interactions over plot mechanizations. I can appreciate that concern, but as I've always said, plot mechanizations always come second to character interactions and character development and actually seeing actors sit down and talk and have an actual conversation with each other. Mm-hmm. It just is always going to come down to it. And the idea that we have an episode here that really did try to establish some kind of a rapport between, Sylvie and Loki, and I think succeeding for the most part, and that is considered to be a failure, or as some would even call it, a waste of time. And I don't know this is one of the things of I guess scheduled week to week program television where we get into this kind of funk every now and then where an episode comes along the way and it may not be as great as the one that came before it, and because of it, it is seemingly crapped on all directions. I don't feel that passionately, honestly, about the episode. I thought it was good. I really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I feel like, man, a lot of the criticism here just feels misplaced, and it feels a lot like the stuff that I kind of really hate, especially the mentality from fans. Like, and a lot of the conversation is like, where were the reveals? Where were the big, story changes and everything? And no one seems to give a crap about the wonderful and delightful interactions we've had between Hiddleston and DiMartino. There was even a review that I opened up today, a video review, that basically started off not by talking about any of the wonderful stuff that happens in the episode, but by discussing the controversy happening, I guess, quote unquote, not controversy, but I guess kind of blowback in response to the episode by not having any kind of big revelations. So that's annoying, overall for me. But the performances continue to be great. It almost acted to me like a bottle episode where it seemingly all took place in the same. Well, no, a bottle episode is just like one setting, like one room or one place. This takes place in one planet, another apocalypse that's about to basically destroy it. As I think a moon is about to crash into the planet, and we get to see people try and get the fuck off of it because they don't want to die, obviously. But it is all, I think, similarly looking environment. It is a purple planet. Mostly rockish terrain, and but the sets were great. I particularly love that train they were on. So overall, I think this continues to be a great series overall, and I really enjoyed this episode. And I shouldn't be shocked at the criticism coming from people, but I guess I kind of am about it. So that's where we are. And there were some things that I'll save. There was a revelation of Loki's sexuality in the episode. There will be a discussion about that at the end of the episode here today, because that, I think, deserves its own discussion. And I have my own annoyances with how that's being treated in and of itself. So we'll get to that. But overall, those are my feelings. So with that being said, shall we go ahead and lift the veil? And David, let's discuss the episode as it happened in sequence.
So the first thing we're in this like restaurant, I guess, and it's Sylvie and that TVA agent that Sylvie got the information of where the timekeepers were at, and it's just showing how it works inside the mind, I guess, to when she enchants someone. And I mean, it was pretty interesting. I think mostly the purpose of that scene though is to kind of show, it worked for me. I kind of question like, how did she come up with this certain area, like of this restaurant? Because we're to assume that Sylvie's just been hanging out in the apocalypses. She's probably been in the TVA and everything. So I was kind of questioning like, how does she know this specific place?
Mm-hmm.
And so, we'll find out later on as to why. But yeah, it's just basically kind of interesting too that how she kind of gets into the mind of people, how she gets certain information, I guess, and also how she controls them. And so that was pretty interesting. And then it just skips to where she teleports away and she's in the TVA going towards the golden doors that the agent told her about. And it's just basically a fight sequence. Loki followed her in. He gets his daggers. I found it funny.
I know.
He was just kind of like, hold up, I gotta get my daggers.
He loves his daggers.
Yeah. It's his thing. But yeah, the action was pretty cool. Got some cool flips. That stick thingy that just disintegrates everything. It was pretty cool and all that. And then at one point they hit a dead end, and for a quick escape, Loki opens up the portal again and takes him somewhere else, and that's where we get to Lamentus.
Yes, yep.
Lamentus 1. That's what it was, or I can't remember the number. Whatever, Lamentus. And Sylvie's like, "What the fuck did you do? Like, you just took us to another apocalypse and everything." And she explains that the moon is crashing down and all that. So they get into a bit of a fight with each other because Sylvie's trying to get the temp
pad.
I was gonna say pod. Temp pad. And at one point, Loki just makes it disappear and everything. And so now they're at a standoff, like they gotta work together to get off the planet. But they also find out that the temp pad is running out of battery, so they can't really teleport out. So that's where we just go around the planet and everything. And yeah, I agree with you. I actually like the look of the planet. I like the purple coloring. I know it's just one color and all that, but I mean, again, it was different from last week. I like the background. You see like ooh, that's another thunder right there.
Yes. By the way, for those, David may be jumping up and down out of terror at some point. Just by there's a kind of an electrical storm seemingly happening where he's at. So hopefully it shouldn't interfere with our recording. But just so you're aware of, that's happening in the background. And David may forget that happens every now and then. He could jump and remind us that it's happening every now and then. So just to be clear about that.
I'm used to earthquakes, not thunder.
Yeah. And earthquakes are usually far less distracting, ironically enough, than thunderstorms when it comes to recording. So there's that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where was I?
I don't know. Your Purple Planet.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, again, I like the Purple Planet, the background and everything. It looks really nice. Again, the use of volume in this, they really used it up for sure this week. I thought it was pretty cool.
And just to be clear, you're referring to the volume?
The volume.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you are aware, of course, the volume is this new piece of technology. Go watch the Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, episode 3 or 4, one of those two, and you know what we're talking about. Go ahead, David.
Mm-hmm. And then what did they talk about? I mean, it was just a bunch of back and forth between the two of them, always trying to trick each other and all that. Like that scene where I guess they go into a little town, and Loki's like, "Oh, can we use that to charge up the temp pad?"
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Yeah." And so she asks him for the temp pad so she can connect it, and he's just like, "Nice try." It's like, okay, fine, yeah, but like, you seriously think this freaking nightlight is gonna charge an interdimensional machine or
right
time traveling machine and all that? And so like, I like the back and forth of them constantly like figuring out, you're tricking me, you're lying, you're gonna do this and that and all that. So I think that's pretty cool. And at some point they make it to this house, and and
gotta love that thunder. It's like Thor, the god of thunder, is making a cameo here on our podcast today.
It's looking for him. He's alive again.
Oh god.
So then so they make it to this house, and Sylvie like tries to break in, but the lady living there just like blasts her with this giant gun and everything, and it was pretty funny. And then Loki tries to kind of like reason with her, and he sees a picture of her and her, I guess her husband and all that. Tries to pretend to be him, and he's trying to be nice, like he thinks that she's gonna react to him being back, I guess, and hopefully, fall in love with him all over again. But the woman just blasts him out, and she's just like, he's never said a nice thing to me in like 30 years or something, or he never said anything that nice to me in 30 years that they've been together. And so they find out, they just ask her like, where's everyone else at? And she goes, they're going to this giant ship, an ark, to get off the planet. And it's like, but good luck trying to get there. And so that's kind of like the plot. Like, we finally get to the plot. I know it's like, it took me a while to talk, but it kind of went by pretty fast.
Yeah, the whole episode is basically Loki and Sylvie trying to get the fuck out of here because this place is about to blow up, and they hear about this arc, and they're going to go and try and get off of it. Pretty hilarious interaction there you just mentioned about the two Lokis and their methods for how to, I guess, get this information out of the woman. And the first one was like, we're just going to attack, and she gets blasted away. And Loki, trying to be much more, I guess, sophisticated or manipulative, attempts something that on the surface I felt could easily work. But then it didn't work. And then humorously enough, he was also blasted away. And then landing directly next to Sylvie, and a great moment of comedic brilliance where they're like, where she's basically just making fun of him for like, oh, that's how it worked. Something of that nature. They were genuinely entertaining to see together. Trying to one up each other, trying to size each other up and see like, okay, what makes you a Loki or what makes you a Loki, and how different they are really. Because, they are, I guess, variants of the same person, and there are similarities that we come to know as the episode transpires, but there are also some differences. I mean, the first of which, of course, is, well, gender is a big difference here. That's the most obvious one. And then she seems to be she has a bit of a reflex, and she's very, I'm trying to find out the right word here. She's very resistant to the name Loki. She doesn't want to be called Loki. And it makes me wonder what's going on there. Some people made some observations about how one of her horns was like cracked, or like, the horns that she wears, obviously. Which of course is, Loki had horns himself in Avengers and Thor Ragnarok, if you don't remember. And it kind of like, it makes me feel like, okay, so Sylvie has, and of course the fact that she calls herself Sylvie kind of implies that she's kind of left the whole persona / identity of Loki behind. Like, she doesn't feel like she's that person anymore. Throughout the episode, she makes references to not being able to remember much of her past before, being intervened by the TVA. And then she also speaks of how she's been on the run for her whole life? Like, what does that mean? She's been on the run for her whole life from the TVA exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess that could suggest that she's been running away from them for a lifetime? Because we don't know how long this very Lokian has been causing mischief for the TVA. So it brings up a lot of really interesting questions. All the while, you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, what is ultimately going to happen between these two? Because with our Loki, Tom Hiddleston, we're always just trying to guess him. It's like, is he on his, I mean, he's always on his own team, but which side ultimately is he really going to help in the situation? Because when we begin off the episode, while they're having that interaction at the TVA before they get to Lamentus, he's there to like, hey, join me or I'll join you. And she's like, fuck you. And then like, okay, now I'm going to kill you. So it's like, you know, with our Loki, his specialty, as he said in Ragnarok, his status really varies from one moment to the next. And since they are forced together throughout this episode, while you're watching them kind of like begin to learn new aspects of each other, you're wondering to yourself, okay, this could be one of these episodes where they can maybe grow a mutual respect for each other, maybe even like each other's company. We are dealing with two Lokis, so we can't really trust what's on the surface with either of them. But you're wondering, like, what ultimately is going to happen? Are these two going to form an alliance and take down the TVA? Is that what it is? Are other members of the TVA going to be involved with this, I guess, rebellion? What's happening? Because I think based on what we know now, at least in so far as we've discussed in this episode, Loki seems very unsure about what to do exactly. He wants to meet the timekeepers. And he mentioned that when he was trying to like basically apprehend Sylvie at TVA, like, I need you to bring me one step closer to the timekeepers. Think of what he said. And then later on, in this section that you were discussing as they're roaming around Lamentus, she's like, you don't even know what you want. This is really interesting. Character motivations or implied character motivations going on. Is that rain I hear?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I heard something.
Oh, wait. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. How do I hear the rain and you don't? Like, I'm not even there. Okay. How do you figure that? Okay. But yeah. See, that's the stuff that I really latch onto, that I like. And all of this that I just mentioned seemed to just go over people's heads.
Yeah, and I mean, part of the problem is that this seems like a show that was supposed to be binge watched again, like in all the other shows and all that.
Right.
And so they really gotta like pace out these episodes way better. And I mean, I disagree with what people are saying, like them getting bored or them saying,
can you
like,
believe that? Can you believe people were saying that they were so bored? One, I saw that like they fell asleep. They chose to turn it off and go to sleep halfway through it, and I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
What?
And I mean, I'll slightly same complaint as last week. I know I mentioned that I like the environment that we got. I did like that better. Now the only thing though is that they gotta get better with their shots. Like, I mean, they gotta get more dynamic shots and everything. I mean, you're in an alien planet. Like, give us some wide shots of more of the planet, not just like the two characters there and in the planet in the background and all that. Like, nah, get wide shots of like them still walking but from far away. They're in a they're in a train from an alien planet. Get some make different train cars, put in different give us different environments again and all that. And then I again, I don't mind the dialogue in this episode and all that, but like I do I do think we could have made it from where they were to the arc where they were heading. We could have gone there a whole lot faster. You could have had a bit more action scenes or something like that. Or I don't know.
Well,
just kind of.
Let's go ahead and stick a pin in this. Well, not stick a pin in this. Let's address this right now. I meant to say, before we move any further, because what we see next, and you'll pick this up when we finish this discussion, where they get to the train station, basically. Before then, let's discuss some of these things right now. People are having a fucking conniption fit when it comes to how many minutes exactly each episode is. So one of the outrages, apparently, is the fact that the episode is only 36 minutes in length. So it's curious how people are like, okay, it was too long to get to where we're going to go, and yet it was still too short.
Yeah.
And again, like we've discussed this before, like the idea that runtime and the fact that we're not getting as much as, like, when people are comparing the runtime to this episode to the previous two episodes, and because it was shorter, there's this, sentiment out there that they feel cheated because of that, ridiculously so. And I even saw one person mention on the review that they were convinced that because this episode was shorter, there was a possibility that there was going to be more than 6 episodes of Loki than they had previously announced. Because Kevin Feige promised 6 hours for when he said that some shows will be closer to 6 hours in length. The ones that are closer to an hour will be up to 6 hours. And like, it just makes my brain hurt because that he never said that. And even if, let's say he did use those words, he didn't mean it that way. He didn't literally mean that when you add up the runtime of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki, you're going to get 6 hours. That's not going to happen. It was never going to happen. It was an approximation. It was an estimation. Like, hello?
Yeah.
This isn't that hard. Just critical thinking skills. Hello? And come on. And the idea that, like, okay, well, we have to, like, add up the run times of each episode, and it means, okay, that means that this episode will be longer, or that episode will be longer. They kept doing this all throughout WandaVision. Remember? Like, when we're getting to the final weeks, like, okay, does that mean that the last episode's going to be, like, 2 hours? No, obviously not. Now, as far as what you mentioned about the environment of Lamentus, I'm of two minds about it. I thought it was, for the most part, impressive, and I think you referenced earlier in the review about budget, and you wish that they had, perhaps utilize more magic in their fights. Now, respective to budget, I have to assume a lot of the budget of this episode was stretched, considering how much time we spent. Like, think about, of all the science fiction shows, like, maybe the best example of this would be Doctor Who. When we're on an alien planet, most of the episode takes place indoors. For obvious reasons. Because we don't have the money to go out and be about the entire time. Some episodes more than others. But it can get a bit iffy depending on how the planet is designed and how they can pull off the effect. Here, they do spend probably the majority of the episode literally wandering around on the outside. And the fact that they're even able to do that, period, I think really speaks to not only how far technology has come, but also how much money they have at their disposal. But they don't have an unlimited amount of money. And we know that because if you look, honestly, I don't even think you have to look hard enough. I think part of this was maybe the volume, but some parts I don't think were part of the volume, because there were moments in which you didn't really have to look that hard to know you were looking at a blue wall, basically. They were on a sound stage. So I need to look into to just really be sure if the volume was utilized. I mean, I assumed so because it was. I mean, we can't really know for sure, but I assume so. But that being said, it wasn't a perfect special effect. It is obviously very TV still, even with all the money put into this. Was it good? Yes, it was very good, especially considering how long they were able to pull it off. But, I mean, don't be mistaken here. That's where the budget went this episode. Now, they really did have some great sets and costumes to really kind of beef up, I guess, this lamentous location. So that's how I feel ultimately about it. And one thing before we're off on this. It was hilarious how I saw last week, and I shared this video with you, in regards to that scene where Loki is explaining to Mobius about, his theory of apocalypses, where he takes a salad and he's like putting a whole bunch of shit in it. Someone had mentioned that was the exact same room. The cafeteria basically was the exact same room for the main time room, or the time headquarters that we see. And this person was using this as a complimentary way for the creators and the production team to actually reuse multiple sets. And that's a trick that is very TV. I think all TV shows do this, especially when it comes to this kind of genre, which may feature some limitations more so than other kind of TV shows. And we also mentioned this when we were covering Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. last year. They really, I think, were the masters at reusing the same set again and again. Sometimes to a better degree in terms of execution than others. I know we had multiple conversations where I would tell you, oh, by the way, this set is the same as that one. You're like, what? Really? They did a really good job of hiding that. And the same can be said of Loki. Although, one thing I wanted to point that out there is that no one ever complimented S.H.I.E.L.D. besides you and me for doing that. I would imagine most people would be like, really? They're using the same sets again? How cheap? Again, just want to bring that up because fair is fair. And also, yeah, I'm kind of that way. Okay. That's what I wanted to say.
I mean, like I said before, it's just really my small complaint is that it just needs a bit more dynamic shots. And this is, I guess, why it shouldn't have been filmed as a streamable show. Like if you were going to release it week to week, film it as if it's a week to week show. And you mentioned Doctor Who and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that. The thing about those is that whenever you have an episode where you're just in one room, the plot of whatever episode ends from, or begins in that episode and ends in that episode. So you get like a fast-paced sort of story and all that. This one, though, gonna go a bit ahead, but this one, it ended in the cliffhanger. And so if you did it week to week, you could have shortened the story of the episode and all that. Again, I didn't find anything wrong with dialogue. I didn't find anything wrong with the interactions. I find it really cool. I like the build up of their friendship and all that. It's just that because you're trying to spread it out, it's not really holding people's attention and all that.
Right. That is a good point to make. Ultimately, cliffhangers are no strangers when it comes to, in TV. You can just name two shows that use them very well for the most part. But because those shows that you mentioned, Who and S.H.I.E.L.D., week-to-week shows, there's seemingly this requirement that no matter what cliffhanger or even if it's in the middle of a season, you got to make a satisfying week of television for the viewer. And from that perspective, I can understand how, with this kind of being the midpoint, kind of being the midpoint way, or the beginning of the midpoint way of the season. Actually, it is the midpoint way. And with it also ending in a way that was ultimately left unresolved, I understand the frustration there. And it felt, this episode didn't feel like it was designed to air all on its own. I think I can agree with that, because it feels like somebody took 30 minutes, a random 30 minutes in the middle of a movie, and released that on TV. And so, especially when it comes to the ending, you're kind of like, wait, what? That's it? And we'll get to that when we get there. But ultimately, I understand that frustration, sure. That to me perhaps is the best constructive criticism I've seen for what we have this week. So there's that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So in the episode, they talk to the woman in the house. She tells them they're going to the Ark, and that there's a train station that's gonna lead them to it, but there's gonna be complications. So they get there, and Sylvie plans on just like taking over someone's mind, beating up a bunch of people, and just go inside the train and all that. But Loki's just like, calm down, like we can do this my way. And so he dresses up as a guard, does the Chewbacca move in Star Wars, basically. Got a prisoner here. And all that. And it was about to work, but they need tickets and all that, and so that's when Sylvie jumps in, uses her mind control, which is, I don't know, cool teamwork, I guess, in a way. And they make it in. What is it? These are not the droids you're looking for. That's the type of thing. So yeah, and just basically, they're safe and sound. But now again, we're going back to the whole tricking each other, trying to play games with each other. Sylvie starts to yawn, and Loki's just like, "Oh, you want to sleep? Go ahead." And she's just like, "Yeah, nice try." And it's just again back and forth. One explanation. Sylvie asks, like, "Where'd you leave the tent pad?" And all that, and he's just like, "It's in my heart." I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But again, they have a little conversation. This time it's, I guess, a bit more personal, where they find out that they pretty much have very different lives now. One piece of information was that Sylvie did know that she was adopted. Her parents told them, and he was just like, "What? Seriously?" And so that was a bit surprising. And then in the conversation, Loki mentions his mom, that she's the one that taught him magic, which we knew that. And he tells this cool story about how his mom would just do all kinds of magic in front of him, turning a flower into a frog, making fireworks come out of the water and everything. And she's the one that tells him, like, you can learn to do this too, because you can do whatever you want, or you can do anything. That was the exact quote. It was just this nice moment, and Sylvie sort of seems like, again, clearly they led different lives. Who knows what it is with her, but obviously kind of like, it's sort of this is wonderment of like how different they both could have been, I guess, if they just both had those tiny differences in their lives. Just, I don't know, it's pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. I hope later episodes we get more about her life, like what the heck happened to her and all that. And we also found out that she taught herself magic, that enchantment piece of magic all by herself and all that, which is pretty cool. And and then basically at some point Sylvie does end up falling asleep, and Loki just gets super drunk and has like a party inside the train station. But that leads to them getting caught. eventually. So, what'd you think of that scene?
I mean, I think it just speaks to the inherent idiot in every person. Like, who the fuck sees that fantastic party going on at Loki, and what good a time everyone's having as the world is about to end, and who thinks this is bad, I'm gonna get them kicked out, and then goes to security and gets them kicked out. Like, who gets pleasure out of doing that?
It's Karen.
So, exactly, I know. But it's like, this is why they hate you. So that's where my mind went, first of all. The exchange that those two had was beautiful. I really enjoyed it. I think that was my favorite part of the episode. That exchange in that booth, which was a beautiful, beautiful set. I loved that train bar. Love it. I wanted to be there right now, at least in the moment. And yeah, we still don't know a lot about Sylvie. And clearly she is revealing some things little by little that are very different than we our Loki that we've been following. But, you know, there's still the question, like, what ultimately was her plan at the end of the day? I think we can maybe infer that it had something to do with taking down the TVA, although we weren't really, I think, privy to how exactly she was, or what she was about to do anyway, you know, in the beginning of the episode. So that's very interesting. And then as far as the bar sequence or when Loki is drunk, I mean, that's great. I don't think we've ever seen Loki being drunk. I don't think we've ever seen Loki just being that fucking carefree. It's about time. I love it. I love the nod to the first Thor movie when he takes the drink or the glass and then smashes it on the floor and then yells another.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I was kind of like, that's so cool.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Yeah.
And it shows like how alike, I guess, they are in Thor in some ways.
And clearly it wasn't, I mean, it's not just a them thing. It is what they do on Asgard. So, no, it was hilarious. It was so much fun. Then, of course, to get thrown out, which was sad. And then even sadder for them when it turns out he landed on the damn temp pad.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, basically he gets thrown out the window. I don't know why. I find it kind of funny that Sylvie just went the temp pad and she just like straight up jumps out the window, and like, I don't know, because in my mind I'm thinking like those guards must be so confused, like what the heck did she jump?
That's right. I mean, they probably could be thinking like, well, that takes care of that. Let's get back to drinking.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, Loki ends up destroying the temp pad, and now she kind of like just gives up hope and everything. And oh wait, no, I was wrong. His excuse was, I mean, I did take a big tumble, so like, you know, you can't really blame me that much. But she ends up, I find it kind of cool that like she just ends up screaming, and like she gets this like blast of energy coming out of her and all that. It's cool. But he tries to comfort her in that moment, and they realize, wait, no, Loki realizes like how is this apocalyptic almost, because like how, like, do the people not get away in the Ark? And she's like, no, it just gets destroyed right before they leave. And he's just like, well, unless we make it and we try to make it leave. And so basically their idea was, we get the Ark to leave, which will cause a nexus event and all that, which would then bring the TVA into their time, and maybe that's how they can get away. Which is actually, I thought that was a really cool plan. And so now we get this cool sequence, all done in one shot. I don't know if you noticed that, but it was all done in one shot where they make it to the city where the Ark is, try to get there, but in that moment, the moon splits in half, and this whole thing just starts collapsing even more and more. So now they're trying to run away from all falling buildings, trying to get away from the guards, and all that, all try to get to the Ark. And ultimately, they didn't make it in time. The Ark gets destroyed, and that's how the episode ends. Again, the whole thing done in one shot. Thought it was really, really cool.
It was, yeah.
I like the bits of dialogue that I wouldn't say dialogue. It was just them going, "Run this way! I got this. Come over here," and all that. But I like that they added that. We get this cool moment with Loki using magic. Actually, the building was falling, and he's just like, "I got it." And I don't know. I don't want to say he like reversed time because I don't think he can do that. But it was just he brought the building back up and almost fixed it in a way. I was gonna mention something else in that scene, but I forgot. What was it? I mean, they went to the city. I don't know.
In which scene?
I remember now. There was a scene before this where I don't know if it was when they were walking in the city or
they were close to getting to the city, I think.
Oh no, it's just there was this one specific moment that I thought it was kind of weird. But there was this one part, you see bits of meteor falling into the earth and everything, just landing and everything. But there was this one moment though where we do get a wide shot and this giant piece of the moon starts landing on the planet, and I was kind of like, I feel like that would do a lot more damage because it was you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I was genuinely confused. I'm like, there's no way it would just
shouldn't that
land.
Kill everybody in sight?
Yeah, like I don't know what the fuck happened there. I mean, I don't know if you want to say maybe like the moon is just getting super close to the planet and it doesn't cause that big of an impact. But I think either way, though, it should still be kind of damaging. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, I agree. That is funny. And I did think that too, because it looked as if the whole thing was about to like fall on them.
Mm-hmm.
But then only...
I was just expecting like a giant wave or something at least.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. It was weird.
No, it definitely was. Did we already talk about the revelation?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Wow, forgot about that. Yeah, so right before they were heading to the city, turns out Sylvie explains how her enchantment works and all that, and she explains that the reason why they were in that restaurant, it was because she unlocked the memory of the TVA agent.
Yes.
And she used that as a way to manipulate her mind. And so Loki is just like, wait, hold up. I was told that the timekeepers created TVA agents. Like, how to... like, that doesn't make any sense. And Sylvie says, no, that doesn't make any sense. They get variants, and then they turn us into agents, basically. And then I think we can assume from that they just wipe people's memories and they become agents after that, which does help my theory in that Sylvie may have been a TVA agent at some point, got her memory, and then she did this whole thing because she didn't want to be taken out of existence, basically. So,
yeah, we had suspected previously that some of the time agents, some of the people at the TVA were reset variants.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure if any of us ever thought for a minute that every single person that we've seen at the TVA were themselves reset variants. That would also include Mobius in that. So that's a big revelation, and yet another indication that the TVA is kind of full of shit here with what's going on. So I wonder if Renslayer knows this, because she is the person in charge.
Yeah, I want to say she does, but as to whether or not even the timekeepers are real or anything like that, I mean, who knows? Like, what's the extent of her knowledge? Was she also taken out of time? and just kind of like worked her way up in TVA, or what?
Yeah, a lot of interesting questions here. I don't know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point we should know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, what I did find funny though was when basically everything was crashing down and, the Loki and Sylvie were trying to get away. It was funny / really kind of sad. So when they see that the Ark was completely destroyed,
Mm-hmm.
and then everyone just looks up and everyone just stops. Because everybody at that point was fighting to get on, and now that was their only ticket out of here, and it's destroyed. And then you see in the background people just looking up with their mouths open. Some of the guards are just like falling to their knees, knowing that they're about to die. And Loki is like, for the first time maybe ever, like, oh fuck, am I gonna die? And Sylvie just like, and she just walks off. She hilariously just fucking, she walks off like, oh fuck this. Which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then that's how the episode ends. So wrapping back around to what we were mentioning earlier, I also was a bit surprised, like, oh, that's how we're going to end it this week?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did it feel abrupt? Yeah, it did. I thought we were going to lean into a different cliffhanger, but it just kind of ends like that. Okay. Yeah, it's the kind of cliffhanger that's not like, wow, I can't wait for the next one. I can understand people's frustrations because it is the kind of cliffhanger that goes, what? That was it?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Can be a little bit more understanding to that in that area. But overall, I mean, I wasn't pissed off. I was just like, I was busy laughing at Sylvie for just like walking off. Like, I don't got time for your fucking apocalypse. Bye. Which, go girl. Yeah, that's the episode. There wasn't much to say really overall, other than it was very enjoyable, and you do bring up the interesting possibility as to how this episode would have been received if it was, let's say, if Loki was dropped in one day.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Like I've said repeatedly, like I'm pro week to week. I like talking about these things week to week. Mm-hmm. If they had all dropped at once, we wouldn't have had the in-depth conversations that we're having right now, and we would forget about it in a day.
Yeah.
And move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the week to week stuff either. I mean, I'm still watching shows like that to this day. It's just, the way it's shot, it kind of, you get these type of reactions because of it.
Right. Okay, well, I think that'll do it for the discussion of the episode. One thing, I don't know if you'll find this hilarious or confusing, but Peter Martinez just texted me to chime in with his thoughts, because I've also been texting with him about, people's reactions, right? So, let me just give you some of those reactions that I've seen. First and foremost, from John Campia, well, that episode of Loki was a complete waste of time. Joanna Robinson, with a contrarian point of view, actually says, TV episodes that establish character dynamics are not filler episodes. That was the other thing that people kept throwing around, is this, oh, it's filler, it's filler, it's filler. And when you and I on the, have said repeatedly that people use that word way too cavalier-like, and throw it around when it comes to episodes that they deem, oh, it didn't move the plot along, that means it's filler. Filler has this implication that nothing of any remote consequence happened or interest. And, well, no, it's not a filler episode. It had character dynamics. AV Club, really critical here. Loki's third episode, Lamentus, fits that bill. You could easily describe it as the Frontier Planet episode, or the Snowpiercer in Space episode, or even just a Purple episode. You could also, unfortunately, call it the one that feels like half an episode. Okay. Maybe toward the end a little there. Yeah. What Peter said, ultimately, is, I get why people hate it now. And he said it played like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode. To which I say, okay, explain. And then this is what and of course this is the only response that he ever would give. It's a slow-paced trek through TV space with two characters on edge of either killing or fucking each other. I'm going to read that again. It's a slow-paced trek, like a journey of some sort, through TV space, so budget space, with two characters on edge of either killing each other or fucking each other.
I never got that.
No, I don't think he was being serious, David. It was just like...
I know, but it was just kind of like... It's like, really? Like, that little... I understand the other... I understand the other one. Fine, if you see it that way. I know, it's a joke. I know it's a joke. It's just kind of like, really?
Yeah, just wanted to chime that in here.
Well,
yes.
I just realized this episode... I mean, I haven't seen the episode in a long time, but on this episode of Loki, I kind of want to compare it to that episode in Daredevil, where his friend Foggy finds out that his friend's Daredevil, the vigilante and all that. And the majority of that episode took place in Daredevil's apartment building. And they're just going back and forth, going like, why didn't you tell me this? Like, when did this start? What? Why'd you, like, are you even blind? He asks him that. But like a huge chunk of that episode happens in one building. And it's a really cool scene because it's different from all the other superhero shows I've seen where it's just like, oh, you should have trusted me, blah blah blah. It's like, and it kind of like they're back and forth, and like that's kind of how I'm comparing this episode. It's just two characters building up this friendship, but like in a very different kind of dangerous way, and almost in a way. And so I'm just using that show because, again, that show was meant to be watched in one sitting. It wasn't supposed to be week to week, and in that show, the first season of Daredevil, like a lot of it is very slow paced, at least for me. And I remember at one point a friend of mine, he started watching it too, and he was just kind of like, oh man, it's kind of slow paced. Like, can I skip some episodes? Like, do I need to skip some episodes? And I was kind of like, no, not really. Like, every episode, there's always something happening that's really important to the plot and all that. To the plot, at least, but all the other episodes, though, you get this buildup of relationships either with the villain or with the other characters and all that. And it really builds up to the finale, especially to the other seasons and all that. And so that's what this show is. This is what this show is doing.
Oh God, you're gonna get me going off on another rant here. Look, people in general have this misconception that just because something is slow paced equals it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there are things that are both bad and slowly paced. Look no further than season 1 of Iron Fist. Look no further than that. That would be a scenario where nothing would be happening, and I would understand people dropping out of it. But we're talking about, you're saying of people complaining about the first season of Daredevil, which is probably one of the best seasons of television in the last 10 years. And there are people who are like, well, it's kind of slow. Should I skip some episodes? No, of course you shouldn't skip any episodes. Deal with it, or if you don't like it, then fuck off. I'm sorry. It's just like this idea that just because, it's taking its time to flesh out the story and giving you more character interactions, just because it's not getting to always being story, and oh my god, I'm bored. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm out of patience for that. I seriously am. Especially since like other shows out there, I'm thinking of like the current iteration of Doctor Who. There's this trope in these last 2 seasons where the characters have like 5 seconds of an intimate moment where they're trying to like have a conversation about each other, and then boom, the plot happens again because they have to go back to that thing that's going on there, and then they become plot devices instead of characters. Oh my god, I can't stand it. I really can't. And it's like it's not even exclusive to comic book fans. It's not even exclusive to like fans like big blockbuster movies. It seems to be, from my experience, something that most general audiences share, and I do not understand why, where something that is slow equals bad, equals wasting my time. That isn't to say that both can't be true of a lot of different properties, movies or TV shows. They can be. But in a lot of really great movies, look, here's a great example. Blade Runner 2049. Denis Villeneuve. It's a great film. It is slow. And I'll tell you, there were some, when I was watching it in the theater, there were some moments where I was like nodding off a little bit, but I was enjoying it while I was nodding off. I get you. Sometimes it can be a struggle. I get you. But like, even for me, but just because something is slow doesn't mean you should stop and think, man, is this really worth watching it all the way through? Mm-hmm. If it's too much for you, then fine, don't watch it. But it's just annoying.
Mm-hmm. And again, I want to say, there's nothing wrong with the dialogue of the story. There's nothing wrong with the interactions. It was really just the shots that kind of like bothered me. And Blade Runner 2049 is a good example. There were many moments where it went very, very slow. But again, you had this cool environment. I want to like the one part where
Las Vegas.
No, Las Vegas. Oh man,
LA
Las Vegas was actually pretty. No, it was when he's trying to get information about the person, the body that they found and everything.
Okay, so where they went to the Jared Leto place, that pyramid-looking area.
Yeah, I really like that scene though, where like the light is shining on it. They're like walking down these stairs.
Oh,
and the light is shining on them, and you're just seeing these like, I guess it looks like statues just floating around and everything. Again, you're getting a crazy. I mean, Loki, it's not gonna get that budget. It's not gonna get that fucking type of effects or anything. So like, we can't really expect that level of amazing cinematography and production. So, but again though, like, there's just a bunch of talking, a bunch of info dumps and all that, and also just there is character moments. You get that scene in the movie where you meet Joy and everything, and like they end up on the rooftop and everything, and it's raining and all that, and it's just this. It's a very intimate moment between the two, but again, you get a shot of the city, you get shots of. You get different types of lighting and all that in that scene and everything. So it's really just that. Just people can't keep their attention spans open enough to kind of like pay attention to what's really going on in the scene.
Yeah, it is unbelievably annoying. I gotta tell you. There are a lot of other examples I can name and put out there, but yeah. That I just won't really understand, but it never fails. It never seems to fail. Do we have anything left to say? In regard, I don't think there's anything else left to say about the episode. Except for perhaps one of the things that people are really making a big deal of, and to be fair, so are the creators. So in the exchange that Loki and Sylvie had, it is revealed that Loki is Now, I don't know if you can say officially one or the other, but the headlines are bisexual, and then some are like, well, either bi or pansexual. So, whatever have you, right? That it was something that he basically said, oh yeah. Kate Herron, who is the director of these episodes, and of course this one, went to Twitter and said, "From the moment I joined Loki, it was very important to me and my goal to acknowledge Loki was bisexual. It is a part of who he is and who I am too. I know this is a small step, but I'm happy. And heart is so full to say that this is now canon in the MCU." Well, good for her. And obviously, and good for just, I guess, fans in general, especially those who have really been begging for years and years and years and years and years of some kind of, representation of some sort. Loki is a major character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and to have just something as simple as this, of a confirmation, is a big deal. And it's great. Now, at the same time, I feel like some people are taking it way too far, because there were like 1 or 2 publications that were calling this a milestone. Okay. Maybe if it was integral to the actual story of what was going on in Loki. Maybe if at some point down the line, Loki has a romantic relationship in this show with a man. Maybe. But that's not going to happen. No, this isn't the story that's happening here. And some have rightfully pointed out, well, this is nice and all, but unless they actually do something with this information, it's still not really what we would want out of a story like this. So it's like, it's a powerful moment, but to say that it's a milestone, I don't agree with that. I mean, it's really, to me, more of the bare minimum. Honestly, what do you think, David?
I mean, at least it's a confirmation.
Yes.
Of sorts. I mean, it's better than just, they have there's just one scene of 2 guys holding hands and then they're, in the background or something. Like, no, this is at the forefront. They basically tell you.
It's the main character of the show.
It's the main character of the show telling you that they're bisexual or pansexual. I don't know. And so, I mean, I guess that part of it is good, but yeah, to say that it's a big milestone, it's not that different from other stuff that I've seen. Yeah.
But of course, that isn't to delegitimize the feelings for people who actually were moved by this moment. Mm-hmm. So if it worked on such a resonant level for you, please continue to feel that way. This is not to at all break that down. It's just I come at it from the mentality that, this is good, this is great progress, but this isn't, I think, something to throw a parade about just yet, is what I'm saying. It's good news. Mm-hmm. It's good. Is it great? Well, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. One other thing before we go, and you had mentioned this before, and because you were talking about, Daredevil season 1. With Falcon and Winter Soldier and with WandaVision, I think both of us came to the conclusion that we really, the show worked as a week-to-week thing overall. I haven't gone back to binge WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier in one sitting, so I can't speak to that experience. But I am wondering if maybe Loki would be the first of these shows where by the end we get to it and we think, maybe this should have been dropped all at once.
I mean, yeah, like I said, this episode for me, kind of confirms it, that it should have been in one go, just because it is slow paced. That there is that big ass cliffhanger that you kind of like I want to see the next episode, but it doesn't leave me satisfied enough that I want to wait for the next episode, basically. And so with WandaVision, you know, it did do that. It left me satisfied for that week because it was doing a comedy. It was doing a comedy show. You know, you get whatever plot you're going on, you have a few laughs, and you're just kind of like, oh, that was pretty cool. And so, and then you can move on to the next, and then you have a week to wait. With Falcon and Winter Soldier, again, that one actually did do a better job. You know, you get an episode where they're trying to figure out where the serum came from. They figure that out, and then the episode ends. What is it? And then you get another episode where they're trying to find what's her name? I guess the villain of the story and all that.
Wait, who?
You know, oh my god, I forgot her name.
Carly?
Carly, yes. You know, you get an episode where they know where specifically she's at, but they're trying to find her. They find her, things go bad and all that, and she manages to get away. But like again, that's fine. They had an idea of how to find her. They executed it, and they got what they wanted. They just couldn't capture her, and that's it. And then the episode ends. So that one, it does do sort of a weekly episodic show. Mm-hmm. It has a weekly show. With Loki, though, not so much. It's a lot of just character moments, again, building up relationships, and you just get little snippets of information. So,
All right, well, I guess we'll see where this all goes. Thank you all so much for listening. Reminder, you can listen to our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts: Spotify, Apple, CastBox, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and so many more. Every single Sunday and sometimes on Thursdays. We've got a show coming up for you with Peter Martinez that you wouldn't want to miss. Hopefully discussing Luca and In the Heights with him. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you back here next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.